Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of World Today. Today we bring you the latest events happening in the country, in Egypt and also abroad. We'll be discussing everything that's happening on the political scene, and even if there's any culture and other events, we'll be having an in-depth look of what's taking place around us. And today I'm Ranal Assas and I'm joined in the studio with Dr. Hilmi Al-Hadidi, President of the Afro-Asian People Solidarity Organization. A very good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And we have the pleasure of having you with us always here on Nile TV International, especially in the program World Today.
Thank you.
Sir, I start off with reading the headline in Al-Ahram Online, which reads, the Italian delegation is to visit Cairo on Saturday for talks on the Regini case. And Italian security Cairo on Saturday to discuss with Egyptian officials the ongoing investigations into the killing of Italian student Regini in Cairo earlier this year. An Egyptian judicial source told Al-Ahram Online. Italian sources told the news agency that the Cairo meeting comes following a request by Egypt's Prosecutor General Nabil Sadiq. It also reported that the Egyptian Prosecutor General provided the phone records of 13 individuals which Rome prosecutors believe may provide clues to who have killed Regini. Regini, a 28-year-old PhD student, vanished from the streets of Cairo in the evening hours of the 25th of January, with his body discovered in a ditch on the outskirts of the city 9 days later, showing signs of extensive torture. Sir, how do you view the latest developments in the Regini's case?
Well, I think it is going in the right direction. We have to convince the Italians that nothing fishy is going on in this particular case, and to clarify what's going on in the Western media, which is mostly against Egypt.
About the Western media, when anything, there was an Egyptian that was killed in London a few days ago, and there are many other similar cases.
And one in Italy.
And one in Italy, exactly. Yes. But it's not mutual what's happening when it comes to media. It's why is the West trying to picture Egypt in this means, or trying to state that there is
the whole issue, the whole thing is meant to be directed against Egypt in the Western media. And many people have been killed, one in the States, one in London, and one in Italy, from the Egyptian side. And nobody raised a row about it, simply because we don't have a kind of hidden interest,
hidden agenda. Why don't we react like they react? Why is it that why isn't it that the Italian that died in Egypt, you're doing much issue over it and you're trying to state that something that's not true? Why isn't it the case with the Egyptian authorities about the Egyptian that died in
possibly because we have no bad intentions towards the Western side, and we need their friendship.
They need our friendship as well.
Not exactly. They need the friendship of Egypt, but not of the present regime.
Exactly.
That's it.
How far has the killing of the Italian student, sir, affected the relations between Italy and Egypt?
Badly, very badly indeed.
Bad influence?
Bad influence, bad effect. And it's not only with Italy, it is with all the Western countries and the United States as well.
How do you evaluate the Egyptian efforts to contain this political crisis?
Well, not 100%, I would say, but it's being wise, being reasonable, but not very, very clear in many points. They should have been more clear, more transparent, so that things could have been taken in a better way.
Sir, I want to ask you again, while the Western media circulated horrible stories about how the Italian student was tortured before he was murdered, they keep very low profile on the savage murders of Egyptians in Italy, London and Berlin. How would this latest incident reflect the Western double standard?
It does verify the double standard of the Western. And I think so far the Egyptians are being very wise, very cool, and I hope a little more transparent.
Hopefully, sir. We move on to the Egypt Independent, which reads, Central Bank of Egypt governor says the United Arab Emirates will deposit $2 billion by the end of May. The governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, CBE, Tariq Amer, has announced that negotiations are underway for a $2 billion US deposit from the United Arab Emirates to Egypt to be paid before the end of May. The money is part of $4 billion payment pledged to Egypt recently by Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the United Arab Emirates Armed Forces. The $2 billion due in May will be allocated to investment in development fields, while another $2 billion will be deposited in the CBE, or the Central Bank of Egypt, to support Egyptian cash revenues. Amer told the state-owned news agency MENA that the certain details of the deal were still being negotiated, but that there was no delay expected in the timing of the transfer this month. Sir, would you please shed more light about the Egyptian-Gulf relation now as we talk? In the light of the visit of King of Saudi Arabia, Bahraini King, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi.
I think the relations are in its best form at the moment. But that doesn't mean that they are going to give us all the time. We have to do some work ourselves. We have to work harder. We have to produce better. And we have to improve our economy a lot better than what it is.
Could you, sir, elaborate more on how you said they're not going to give us more, we have to work?
Yes, I think they cannot continuously give us. They don't have enough to give, especially with the oil prices are getting lower. And I think we have to make good use of these $4 billion and to help people produce, build, and reconstruct so that our national income gets better.
Sir, we have with us the Daily Star that there's the headline that reads, Israel air raids wound 4 in Gaza as border violence flares. Palestinian territories, Israeli airstrikes hit 4 targets in Gaza overnight, wounding 4 people, 3 of them children, medical and security sources reported on Thursday, as violence surged on the border. It was the biggest flare-up in months and raised concerns for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers that has held since the last round of major hostilities in the territory ended in summer 2014. The Israeli army reported that a major target of the strikes was suspected infiltration tunnels under the border, like those who destructed it, cited as one of the principal achievements of the 2014 conflict. And it gave no word on casualties, but medical sources in Gaza said in a raid on a Zaytuna district wounded 4 members of the same family, 3 children and a 65-year-old. The raid hit a garage, saying the vehicles that caught fire were not used by security forces, but only for reconstruction works. Sir, how do you view the Palestinian-Israeli conflict?
Well, I think that it is the worst conflict in all the history of the world. All the countries have achieved their freedom, their independence, except Palestine.
Is there a means that Palestine can achieve independence?
Yes, at least a good start. They have to unite their forces. Enough of their divisions, enough of their splitting up, enough of the many fictions, and they have to sit together, believe in one.
They sat together, they sit together all the time.
No, I don't mean sitting, having a coffee. I mean sitting, approving on what I am saying, is to have a common aim, that's independence of Palestine, having their country, known borders, capital Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, and this is the big aim that they should work for. No differences whatsoever. They postpone their differences until later. They are fighting each other, killing each other, doing what Israelis want, actually, not achieving any step forward.
How, sir, are you going to convince Israel that Palestine is a country that they are occupying? When are they going to? They are not convinced.
Israel doesn't know
no ceasefires. Nothing is working on solving this major problem that's taking place all around.
You have to have power to enforce your opinion. If you don't have any power, popular power, military power, or any other power like supported by the United States or the big countries, you don't have any weapons to fight with. That's number one. Number two, in the state of affairs in the Middle East at the moment, countries are being destroyed completely. Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Libya, Tunisia. And we are facing in Egypt some internal problems that prevent us from taking the lead in the affairs of the Middle East. I think they have to work hard to get together, believe in one big aim, and work together for it, forgetting all their differences and working for just that aim. They are fighting for a cake that has not been cooked yet, which is wrong. And I'm here wishing they sit together and believe in one big aim and fight for it. The Arabs would help them if they are united, and Israel would consider the requests then. Otherwise, I don't think any hope.
Sir, we move on to the World Bulletin, and the headline reads, Twin explosions hit Homs in Syria. A car bomb is one of the two explosions that hit Syria this morning. And piece of information reads, a double bomb attack on Thursday in central Syria killed at least 10 civilians and wounded 40 others, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. State television reported that at least 6 people were killed and 28 seriously wounded in a suicide attack and a car bombing in a square in Homs province. The area, controlled by President Bashar al-Assad's regime, is located between the cities of Homs and Palmyra, which was recaptured by the Syrian army last month. The blast come just days after the ISIL seized the nearby Sha'ir gas field, one of the biggest in Homs, in an attack that killed at least 16 regime troops. Syrian regime controls most of Homs, the country's largest province, except for certain areas held by rebels or Daesh. Sir, can you describe the latest developments in Syria?
Very, very upsetting and frightening at the same time. Especially bombing of hospitals and the patients inside, which happened just yesterday. I expected for a long time that with the foreign powers entering into the scene in Syria, the thing would be more expression of who is more powerful. And the Syrians are going to pay for that. It is an internal fight, internal war between Syrians on one side and Syrians on the other side. And the killing is too much, and the refugees are too many, and the problem is getting very, very serious indeed.
So how do you see a shift towards peace in the area in Syria?
Yes, I think.
And when do you see it upcoming?
Foreign intervention should be stopped. That's number one. Number two, fighting should be stopped as well. And then people should sit together, Syrians together, sit and find a solution peacefully, wisely to their problems. I think any Syrian now feels the problem, feels the suffering, feels the dangers that happened in Syria. Syria is going to be lost. And the people are mostly refugees everywhere, and either killed or wounded inside the country.
How do you see the attitude of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the light of the events taking place in Syria and his attitude?
Well, it is a matter, he is one fiction of a group of fictions that each and every one of them is seeking for power. No one is thinking of the Syrians.
Of the country and the people of
that's
Syria.
It.
Sir, who, from your point of view, do you think is worth to be the leader in Syria at this point?
Nobody is showing to be the leader at the moment. And I think
but Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is fighting for what he thinks is his right from his own point of view. Because he used to be the president of this country.
He used to be the president. He was elected by people recently.
Exactly.
And he thinks that he is having the right to govern the country. Okay, we can sit together if we wanted to save Syria. They sit together and they find a peaceful solution for their problems. Each one is having some rights and is giving something. No one is going to have it all.
We all wish the situation in Syria gets better.
I hope so,
because
really.
it's worsening and it's not being...
it is depressing, really, it is depressing.
It's not looking good. And we move on, sir, to the Gulf today, where the headline reads, Yemen talks to focus on shaky truce. UN-backed peace talks to end Yemeni civil war resumed on Wednesday after they were suspended by the Yemeni government for 3 days in protest at a Houthi assault on a military base near the capital Sana'a. But the truce, which had been largely holding since April the 10th, the talks in Kuwait had been inching ahead before their pause, and the Houthis said Saudi Arabia had on Saturday released 40 Yemeni protesters. UN Special Envoy to Yemen, Ismail Old Sheikh Ahmed, tweeted a picture of delegates representing the main warring sides sitting around a U-shaped table and said talks on Wednesday would focus on cementing the shaky ceasefire. The Houthis and Yemeni's Saudi-backed exiled government are trying to broker a peace via talks in Kuwait and ease a humanitarian crisis in the Arabian Peninsula, poorest country, where the conflict has drawn in regional powers and killed many people. A civil war in Yemen escalated when an army push by the Houthis cast the government into exile on March 26th of last year. Saudi Arabia mustered an alliance of mostly Gulf Arab countries to push the group back out of Sana'a. Sir, would you give us more details on the current situation in Yemen?
The current situation is shaky, as you just mentioned, and the truce is not working very properly. And I relate that all to foreign intervention.
I was just going to tell you.
Yes, it is. It is because of that it is maintained. If they are left together, one would conquer the other and it is finished. But the Houthis are supported by the Iranians, and the others are supported by Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, and the fight is going to continue. People will die. No truce is respected.
It's going to continue. They're always going to break the agreements. What are the prospects of reaching peace talks, peace deal to settle the conflict in Yemen?
As I just mentioned, foreign intervention should be stopped.
What role has Iran played in the conflict?
Yes, it is supporting the Houthis. With weapons, with...
Why is Iran doing this, sir?
First of all, because of the belief in the Shiite beliefs. Second, they wanted to control Bab el-Mandeb, which controls the Red Sea, and they wanted to say we are here in the Middle East. That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's episode of World Today. Today we had with us in studio, joined with me, is Dr. Hilmi Al-Hadidi, President of the Afro-Asian People Solidarity Organization. Dr. Hilmi, we thank you so much for joining us in our program World Today, and thank you so much for being with us and giving us more information about the going abouts of what's happening everywhere here in Egypt and abroad. And we hope everywhere gets peaceful again, and everything gets peaceful again, and a better future for all the countries, especially the Arab countries that the problems are taking place in and instability is taking place in. And ladies and gentlemen, from me, myself, Rana Qassas, thank you so much for joining, and stay with us for more to come up here on Nile TV International.